Welcome again, one and all, to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. It's my joy to serve as the minister here. I'm Pastor Isabel Call. Good morning and happy equinox. Our mission is to be a diverse, evolving, spiritual community acting for a better world. And our vision is that we are a vibrant, inclusive congregation, widely known as a safe haven and a force for social justice. And it just warms my heart to see you all here embodying these good words that we've come up with together. I want to invite you to write down your joys and sorrows for sharing later in the service. If you're on Zoom, I'll invite you later to type them. And if you're here in the sanctuary, you can find some pieces of paper and a pen in a little box nearby. This morning is our annual water communion. You are invited to bring water from your homes or important places in your lives. And later we will pour the waters together to symbolize the confluence of our stories into a gentle but mighty river of meaning. If you didn't bring water, that's fine. Water is everywhere, and we have some here for you in these pitchers that you can pour. If you're visiting us, your stories are welcome here. We won't drown you out. We invite you to give your stories meaning in your own way. We have no creed that you need to conform to. We also invite you to find new meaning here and to co-create it with us. Visitors and newcomers, I hope you will get a cup of coffee or tea after the service, and ask any questions of anyone around. And our greeter, Jessica, over here, and our Zoom host, Kathy, are especially available to welcome you. And I'm pleased to welcome a couple of special visitors of my own this morning, my partner Jason, who's here from Westmoreland, and my decade-long friend Chloe, who's visiting us from Northampton, Massachusetts. As we start this service, we acknowledge the loss of one of our beloved members, Roger Johnson. He passed away on Saturday morning, September 14th, at his home. Let us keep Roger in our memory and hold his wife Linda and their daughters Sarah and Laura in our thoughts, as well as all those who love them. We will share details for a celebration of life when we are able. So here we are, at the turning of time, the turning of the seasons. Isn't it amazing that the weather just turned on the exact day of the equinox, at the time of the year when the light is equal to the dark? And isn't it beautiful that our water communion could be held on a weekend when the rain and the storms could bless our river of stories? I want to acknowledge the Kansas River, in whose watershed we thrive, and the Kansa people for whom it was named. They lived here for centuries, connected through family and story, to those who knew and loved this land since time immemorial. Though the Kanza people were removed from this land, they remain connected, and they retain moral rights to be here. So as we learn ever more how to live in right relationship with this land, honoring the water here, and tending to the change of seasons, we humbly seek to be in right relation with the people of the land, and we will support their return.
In the words of Reverend Manish Mishra Marzetti, between rocking the boat and sitting down, between stirring things up and peaceably going along, we find ourselves here in community, each called from many different journeys, many different life paths onto this river road. Some are here because the rocking of the boat has been too much turmoil, too much uncertainty, too much pain. Some are here with questions about where the boat is going, how best to steer it, where this journey ends. Others are here as lovers of the journey, lovers of life itself. Here in front, beside, behind, each a passenger, each a captain, doing the best we can. Rest here in your boat with me, the river calls. Listen to how I flow, the sound of life coursing all around you. Let the current hold you, let the current guide you. The river that gently flows through your soul whispers, "Come, let us worship." So I hope the flow has brought everyone today with water from a special place to you, or at least with a special flow that the water represents. But fear not if you didn't happen to bring water. Today you can pour some from the carafes we have up on the stage by the water communion bowl. And for those on Zoom, if you have a glass of water nearby, please hold that up with your videos on so that we can add your water and spirit to our bowl here in the sanctuary. So I would like everyone who would like to participate to come join the currents to the front stage and pour a bit of your water into our collective cup so our collective voices can be greater together in community than alone.
I have a few more waters, 2 other waters to add to our bucket here. So first I'll add in some of the water that we collected last year in our water communion. So now we are connected across time, this congregation. All those who were here then are represented here, and we will save water this year and bring it forward. So we are also connected to the us who will be in the future. And then I'm going to add some water. So Jason and I, a couple weeks ago, went to the water communion in Lawrence. Oh, I can't get this open. A lot of Unitarian Universalist congregations did our water communion. I'll take that. Did their water communion 2 weeks ago. So we went and we added water, and we were able to take some water from the Lawrence congregation. So now we are connected to the Lawrence Unitarian Universalist congregation and also other UU congregations around the country celebrated on that day. The very first water communion in this tradition was held in 1980 in a worship service for the Women and Religion Continental Convocation of Unitarian Universalists. The worship leaders, Carolyn McDade and Lucille Shuck Longview, wanted to create a new feminist ritual that, quote, spoke to our connectedness to one another, to the totality of life, and to our place on this planet. They wrote, water is more than simply a metaphor. It is elemental and primary, calling forth feelings of awe and reverence. Acknowledging that the ocean is considered by many to be the place from which all life on our planet came. It is the womb of life. And that amniotic waters surround each of us prenatally. The worship service was for us a new story of creation, end quote. And so here we are in this moment, unique, but like all other moments, in that right now is the beginning of the rest of our lives. As we mingle our waters, we are telling a new story of the creation of the world, the creation of this community, and the creation of ourselves. So what is that story? The first water communion invited 8 participants who had traveled from different parts of the continent to describe the significance of the water they were pouring into an earthenware bowl. They spoke deeply of the Rio Grande, of the Assiniboine River, thank you. In Canada, they brought rainwater and stories from Maryland, ocean water from the Pacific and the Atlantic. Most of us present here live in the Kansas River Valley. The water we brought most likely comes from right here. And yet I believe we can speak as deeply and with as much diversity as any other group of people. I've heard it from you before. And so I ask of you today, not where does your water come from, but what flow in your life does it represent? Perhaps you brought water from Pompeii, but I hear that it represents to you this flow of a dream carried over a lifetime and fulfilled. So you all had a chance to write. Now, if anybody would like a chance to speak anything that they wrote about, perhaps 1 or 2 or 3 people here in the sanctuary or on Zoom could share, and I'll ask the other questions too. What has flowed into or out of your life since the summer solstice?
Are we on?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go ahead and start with one of my reflections. I found this poem, and to me, it was kind of like the UU adaptation of that biblical footprints in the sand. And like this poem that I found that I'll share with you, a very, very shortened version, to me just resonates so much better. And this is by John Rodell. I had been carrying hope in my pocket like it was a polished gemstone for years, Whenever trouble came, I'd squeeze hope tightly in my shaking hand. Recently, though, I somehow lost my hope. I have no idea if I put it down somewhere or if it slipped out while I was fumbling for my keys. Without being able to hold on to hope, I soon became lost myself. After a while of wandering in the wild on my own, I bumped into Hope, who looked so different. Hope was no longer a little gemstone that could fit in my pocket. Hope was now a wide stream cutting through the woods. "I thought I lost you," I admonished. "Lost me?" the water babbled. "That's impossible." I needed to change forms because you've been carrying me for so long that I decided we should try something different. I thought I would take a turn carrying you for a bit. The river rose up around me and pulled me gently onto my back. I was floating. I didn't realize how exhausted I was until the river held me and hope carried me. Now, whenever trouble comes, I just spread my arms open and let hope wrap me up in her slow water. I'm in no rush to get to our destination because it has been so long.
I'm in no rush to get to our destination because it has been so long since I've felt helped by anything, and I think I could really get used to it. Thank you. So hope flowing. Old notions of hope flowing out. New hope flowing in and through and carrying. Thank you. What has flowed out of your life and into your life since the solstice?
Well, this is Larry. We were in the summer, the late spring and the summer, looking back, and even during that time, I felt that I was failing to do the things that I needed to do, that I wanted to do. And I felt like the person in that poem, sort of hope was lost. It's now too late to do some of those things. But then I remembered that sometimes I did other things, important things, things that I felt good about. And so for me, this past solstice to equinox has been a time of recognizing the multiple streams that run through my life that I do well and that I fail to do. So, thank you, Hope.
Thank you, Hope.
I've been thinking about water a lot because I thought that I was going to be doing the Haudenosaunee words that come before all else on September 29th. And it turns out there's been a change, and no, I won't be doing that. But I started really thanking the water a lot. And it's everywhere. It courses from the oceans and the rivers, vaporizes, goes up, it's in the sky everywhere. We couldn't breathe oxygen without the moisture. So the water's in all of our bodies. It's even in your eyes, the vitreous and aqueous humor you see because of water. And we're used to blood, sweat, and tears, but there's lymph. And I just hope that if people can learn to think of how the water unifies us all by coming up and giving us all the plants, supporting every animal, supporting everything, that we understand how connected we are.
Thank you, Diane. Somebody wrote, water. Today means to me the water I gave to our son's tree in our yard. It is tall and beautiful, a spruce, but it was dry. I let the hose dribble on it for 24 hours, bringing much happiness to its roots, its meaning, and to me. I'm gonna offer if anyone on Zoom wants to share about flowing in your life. Lovely to see all your faces and names here on the screen.
And if anyone wants to share, you can unmute yourself. You don't have to show yourself, but if you have something to share, we would like to hear from you.
Oh, hi, Lester. Hold on just a sec so we can turn on the sound from Zoom so we can hear you. Les, go ahead.
I hesitate because this isn't just personal, but it has been personal to me, but it's not just about me. I, at the time of the solstice, had incredible fear about what was going to happen on election day. And since then, things have changed, and I definitely have more hope that the direction our country's going on election day, I have a lot more hope that it's going to go well. So, yeah, that's been a big change.
Thank you. Hope flowing. Hope flowing. Yeah, Sylvia.
I'm Sylvia Beeman. I've always loved water from when I was a tiny girl and loved spending hours searching for salamanders and crayfish under rocks in a stream in the woods in the summer, jumping in the ocean and body surfing. And then when I was a biology student, learning the wonder of how does water get to the top of a tree by the magic of capillarity and hydrogen bonds. I mean, it's just a miracle. And I was horribly stressed all summer when the river's so low. And maybe because I'm outside a lot and I'm a gardener, I was trying to press a you should ready political sign in my yard, and the ground was so hard. And I'm just so glad anytime it rains or there's a thunderstorm, I used to sit, my sister was annoyed, we shared a bedroom, in this horrible thunderstorm, which we always had in mountains in Virginia, I'd sit with the window open on the windowsill at night and just let it pour down. And anyway, some amazing things happened this summer, and one was our two older daughters came without their partners, but with two grandkids, and we had just a really intense 3 weeks together. And my skinny 10-year-old granddaughter, I signed her up for 2 back-to-back classes for 2 consecutive sessions of swimming. And this 10-year-old who could only hold her nose when she went under the water last year passed through all 10 stages of swimming lessons and can do the butterfly and everything. And I learned how to swim better watching her do her strokes and getting taught. And I love to swim. I've been a lap swimmer forever. And recently, swimming laps with my friend Betty Banner in Wamego is so fun.
And it was the most amazing thing that happened.
Tears always appropriate on Water Communion Day.
Oh, Sylvia wants me to read the last part. The coalescing flow of love of Dick and me and our two older daughters, Naomi and Irene, for our dear Chloe, into an action plan of hope.
Blessed be.
I want to acknowledge my older daughter, Violet, who struggled very intensely as a child and as an adolescent, and is now in her first year in college and has made a profound commitment with her partner of 4 years to convert to Judaism, and has found an incredible balm in those rituals and awareness of time, awareness of how to allocate her mental and emotional and spiritual energy in that form of community and practice. And I'll just share the story she told me when she moved into her new dorm this fall and bought was with gratitude able to buy separate dishes to do her kosher practice. And she lives in San Francisco, and the way to initiate the dishes would typically be to go to a mikveh, which is like a ritual water space that's sanctioned by a rabbi, and they weren't able to do that. It was too far away, and so the other thing you can do is take them to the ocean. So she and her partner took a laundry basket of all their cooking ware to the bay, to the ocean, and bathed it in the ocean, and got it back to the dorm, and then had to wash the dirty ocean water off in the shower to get it ready to cook with. And she says, I don't always know why I do these rituals, but I do know that it made me aware that these things come from the earth, and I can't take being able to cook or anything I eat for granted. And I'm just so grateful for her wisdom in finding a path of practice that serves her and that focuses her inquiry about what her life is for.
Blessed be.
Hi, this is Dan. Kathy and I were talking this morning, and I was feeling overwhelmed about the forever chemicals that we're seeing showing up. And yesterday she had been kind of overwhelmed with all the political work she was doing. And so I just want to remind us that together we can fill a bucket, but we are just individual drops in the water. And so we shouldn't each feel like we have to fill the bucket. We can work with others towards filling that bucket.
Yeah, and what a blessing it is to be in community where we have faith in the other drops. We know drops are going to leap in with us, behind us. We have other drops to follow as we're filling that bucket.
I don't know about everyone, but much like Higgins, you may have at one time in your life seen the grasses dry.
Dawn, can you hold the mic a little closer to your mouth?
Sorry. I don't know how other people have felt when you've had a time like Higgins where your grasses are dry, burning maybe, thirsting. Some people in life thirst for shelter and safety, food, water, of course. But since the summer solstice, the fields of my life from scorched times in the past, I welcome the things that have flown out of my life, brought on not by clouds, but with the compassion and safety from others. And I hope that anyone who struggles at any part in their life finds healing, much like the ground and earth can find rain.
Thank you. We had other reflection questions about dreams that you are taking little drop-sized action on. Just open floor if there was more anyone wanted to share here in the sanctuary or on Zoom. I'll read this other one that came forward earlier. I'm thinking of all of my friends and myself whose life partners have left the physical realm, and those existing physical relationships, and the universal and unique compassion expressions we share. May we amplify the good for all as we grow. I want to share my personal, what the water means to me or meant to me today as I poured it. It means the presence of the fellowship in my life, even when I'm not here, even when I'm far away. I felt your love during my medical leave, even when I wasn't seeing you, and partly because of so many of you feeding me. Definitely felt that. But also, I could just feel it. We have this, what this person wrote about these physical relationships, the compassionate expressions. We have a history with each other, and that continues to resonate even when we're not physically or virtually together. And I also want to share, I was, for medical leave, I was away for the board retreat, which was sad for me because I really like to be at the board retreat because it's the launch our leadership does every year. But I haven't quite made it through the recording yet, but as I'm listening to it, I'm so inspired by our leaders. I have this sense that we're in it together, that I was present, even though I wasn't there in body at the same time, just as you all are present for me, even when we're not together in body at the same time. So that's sort of how water works, we're all always connected by it across time and space, and it's more than a metaphor. It's more than a metaphor. I have one last question that I might just ask and sort of leave here, and it's if anybody has a burning desire to answer it, please do. I'm curious, what does or what can the water communion mean to us as the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Manhattan? There's definitely something that is happening here today. This communion. One thing I love about our two UU communions, water communion and flower communion, is that we bring the sacraments. So something sacramental is happening here. And maybe we don't need words for it, but I would love to be able to tell people, remember, when summer, we have a bit of a dispersal at the beginning of summertime. Remember, water communion is coming. And what would they be like? Oh yeah, what's that? Since next year will only be the third time we're doing it. So what is that? How would we describe it?
If no one else is going to say anything, this is Kathy. I think it's a time of coming together in community and grace for each other, and a time to reflect on how we support each other and how we work together for common causes, but especially how we support each other and are together as a community.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of congregations call it water communion in gathering, and they have it that first Sunday after Labor Day in gathering, so it's when we all come back together. Looks like we have one more comment, and then I'll take the final word.
I guess what I'm going to say really builds on what, I agree with what Kathy said. The water to me is connection. A geologist friend of mine who, he studies the history of how water shaped the earth. He pointed out to me that when I see a stream or a lake or a pond or something, that's just the surface water that hasn't been absorbed by the ground. The water is such a symbol of our connectedness. Underneath the ground, the water is flowing in all different ways. If you go to Google Earth and look down and see the contours of the earth, you can see the watersheds. Like Kanza Prairie, I think, has 6 different watersheds, or maybe 7. And so the water is flowing underground. It's like the deep thoughts and feelings we have deep underground, and then they stay at the surface sometimes. And those are just some of the things that we let others see about us or that we share with others, but we are all connected in this wateriness, which how much of a percentage of our bodies is water.
Yeah.
And what makes our the blue marble special planet that we live on.
Thank you. I think it's in many ways a blessing that we get to, at this moment in our history as a congregation, define water communion. But there is a disadvantage that we face in not having had this ritual for decades. It hasn't been nourishing and reassuring us for a long time, and as we do it each year, we're not remembering, the past of doing it. So it is good to start now being intentional, joining others. The other disadvantage of us not having had this long tradition is that we can't modify it in a given year to make a particular statement or a point, or to be, current in a way that is deeply resonant because people are used to a tradition. And so I just want to offer this year, for example, there are Unitarian Universalists around the country who have water communions, are used to them, who are responding to a call from the organization UUs for Justice in the Middle East to place an empty decorated paper cup next to the bowl at their water communion. And so this was invited as an act of solidarity and love with Palestinians who are facing severe lack of water. And so the idea of putting an empty cup next to our bowl, which has for generations overflowed in many congregations. Because our congregation is not used to water communion, this cup, may not connect quite the same way for us. And yet, I added here so that we may remember that we are connected to people all over the world, that water connects us, and that our Our search and quest for justice connects us.